following today. The first step is for the Commissioner to investigate allegations of noncompliance with law or rule. Second, he determines whether there is probable cause to find that a district failed to follow the law and reports a determination of probable cause to the State Board of Education. Next, this board considers the Commissioner's determination, information provided by a district, as well as other relevant information to determine whether a district has indeed acted contrary to the law. If so, a district must document compliance within a time specified by this board. If a district is unwilling or unable to document compliance with the law within the time set by the board has the authority to order certain actions which are designed to encourage compliance with the law. These include the withholding of state funds, reporting to the legislator, and department, the Commissioner of Education, or the State Board. I also note that the order issued by the Second Judicial Circuit, which has been widely reported in the press, enjoining the State Board and the Commissioner from taking any action to ban face mask mandates by school districts, was stayed by the First District Court of Appeal. As a result, the Circuit Court's order is not an impediment to the State Board's authority and responsibility for oversight under 1008-32 Florida statutes. I will pause here to allow the Commissioner of Education to make his report to the Board.
Thank you, Stassi. I know this is a highly charged topic. Obviously, we're all concerned with the health and education of our state's children, and we have discussed at length the importance of in-person education as not only critical to the emotional well-being of our students who have struggled in the past year, but more importantly, their educational success. We also believe that parents, under the Parents' Bill of Rights, have the right to direct the education and health of their children. However, under our system, the state surgeon general is the person who provides direction for controlling communicable diseases in public schools. Our former surgeon general did so under Emergency Order Rule 2112. Our new surgeon general has done so under Emergency Rule 2115. Districts are required to follow these policies. They can't pick and choose which parts of the law they want to follow. The Attorney General rejected an argument that a school district could selectively enforce 2112 in Attorney General Opinion 2021-01. The same principles apply to 2115. Health's rule with regard to masking provides as follows. Schools may adopt requirements for students to wear masks or facial coverings as a mitigation measure. However, the school must allow for a parent or legal guardian of the student to opt the student out of wearing a face covering or mask at the parent or legal guardian's sole discretion. As for districts specifically, based upon the information I have received, none of the districts before you today allow parents to opt out of school district masking mandates at their sole discretion. Most limit opt-out to circumstances where a parent can demonstrate an exception applies, such as a medical one, and requires documentation to meet these exceptions. They would include Broward, Miami-Dade, Orange, and Palm Beach. Some limit this to a certain grade band, Leon and Alachua, effective 10/19, but still has medical requirement until then. And at least one, Duval, implements a mask mandate and lifts it based upon local positivity rates. None follow the directive of Health's rule, which requires districts to allow parents to opt out their child at the parent's sole discretion. I would also like to take this time to point out that districts with opt-outs or no policy at all have seen an average decrease of 65% in positivity from the week ending August 19th to the week ending September 30th. Districts with no opt-out have seen an average decrease of 67%. Further, cases 5 to 17 in opt-out or no policy counties have decreased an average of 79.4% from Friday, September 1st to Friday, September 29th. Meanwhile, cases in counties with no opt-out have decreased 76.5%. This is to say, unsurprisingly, and as we've said all along, we are seeing no impact of forced masking in schools. This is also not surprising since there were no statistical differences in case rates in schools during the 2021 school year, which we faced last year. That is my opening remarks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And members, I'd like to summarize my understanding of what's been said by council regarding what we are to do today at this meeting. I see 4 steps here, some already taken. The first This is all set forth in law and statute, so this is not something that's at our discretion. But first, there must be a finding of probable cause that each district has failed to comply with the recent emergency rule. The commissioner has found probable cause, so that requirement has been met. Second, as a result of that finding, each district, by law, this is not something that we have imposed by rule, but by law, approved by the legislature in bipartisan voting, by law, each district shall, and that's the word used in the law, document compliance. Third item is if a district does not satisfactorily document compliance before us today, we may order compliance within a certain period of time, as we have done before. And then fourth, if a district fails after such an order, and it doesn't matter why, if they are unwilling or maybe simply unable, we as a board may impose sanctions on that district. So today, the commissioner has found probable cause with respect to the districts that are before us and will present recommendations for each district, including sanctions. But first, we need to allow the districts an opportunity to document compliance. Then we can consider his recommendations for sanctions. That's the purpose of the meeting, is to document compliance. So I'd ask those speaking today, whether superintendents or members of the public, to simply address that question. Is the district in compliance with the rule? Today's meeting is not about whether masks work. It's not about whether you like mask mandates of a particular district or not. It's not about your personal beliefs. It's not about what the science means. It's not particularly about the old rules, which have now been rescinded. And perhaps most importantly, it's not about politics. It's about the kids and what's best for the kids that are under our charge as an organization for the schools in the state of Florida. And please remember that all of us, all board members, are volunteers here. We are driven by a desire of what's best for the kids. That sometimes conflicts with what other people want, but that's our job and that's our obligation. Now, we are going to hear from the public today. By law, we're not required to hear from the public when this board sits in a quasi-judicial capacity, but we want to hear from the public. But we want that public comment to be limited to input that's going to help this board with the only decision that it has to make today, which is whether or not each district has documented compliance with the rule. Now, each public speaker or a public caller will get 1 minute, which is not a lot of time, so please use it wisely. All timing will be controlled by the operator, and there will be a timing set such that the call will be ended within the allotted time. And it's possible that we may interrupt the caller if they are off topic, because we really want to hear about compliance by the districts. That's the goal today. So with that, we have reserved 30 minutes for public comment, 1 minute per caller. And with that, operator, do we have any public callers waiting to be heard?
Thank you, sir. At this time, if you would like to make a public comment, you may do so by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. If you are using a speakerphone, please make sure that your mute function is turned off so that your signal can reach our equipment. A voice prompt on the phone will let you know when your line is live and open. Please state your name before making your comment, and also note again that you will have precisely 1 minute to make your comment with a 10-second warning to be provided. Here comes our first public comment. All right, Allison.
My name is Allison Holmes. We're in Seminole County. You said it's about the kids. My son, JJ, has cerebral palsy. He's in a wheelchair, uses an iPad for communication and to complete his schoolwork. JJ types on the iPad with his nose, so he obviously cannot wear a mask, meaning JJ is currently stuck at home because during a pandemic that's killed nearly 5 million people, this board decided to give unvaccinated, unmasked students the final say on whether they want to spread a highly contagious airborne virus. This means JJ has not had any form of education so far this school year. This board should be thanking these 8 counties for their integrity. It's the board members and their petty political posturing who are the ones who should be investigated. And I suggest you also look into the shady background of your new Surgeon General. Disability rights are human rights.
All right, thank you.
Chelsea, let me jump in here, please. As a courtesy to the first caller, we did not cut her off, but her comments had nothing to do with whether or not the county she referenced was in compliance with the new rule. So please, callers, focus and limit your comments to whether or not the county about which you'd like to speak is in compliance with this.
Thank you. Our next public comment will come from Aaron Davison.
Hi, Broward County Public Schools is violating the law, and they are trying to defend their unlawful actions. There is zero justification for the mandate. Please help Broward students and parents hold our board responsible. They are not in compliance. Their letters to you are lies and manipulation. We have no parental opt-out, only medical opt-out, and then a parental opt-out only when our county reaches a nearly unobtainable number of cases. Board members Susan and Campbell have fought hard to not allow a mandate and to fight for our parental rights. We plead with you to hold the 3 board members, Belford, McDougall, and Jenkins, accountable for their actions to the full extent of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment comes from Angelique Contreras.
Hello, Board. My name is Angelique Contreras. I am a Palm Beach County resident. I want to state that Palm Beach County, as of last night, had a meeting to readdress their policy 5.3261, Emergency Protocols and Prevention for Strategies for Students due to COVID-19. And in that policy, they do not have an opt-out option for the students in Palm Beach County. They have given their full authority to the superintendent to create the mask mandate policies. And also, Dr. Alina Alonso created a metric system that is not capable for Palm Beach County to be met in order for there to be an opt-out option. And that is why I'm calling today to let this board know that our superintendent, Michael Burke, continues to be in non-compliance with the state laws of the Parents' Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next comes from Jody Hand.
Hello, my name is Jody Hand, and I am representing the thousands of Moms for Liberty members on this call from Florida. I am also with Broward County. Chairwoman Belford is not in compliance with the emergency rule, and we are asking this board to please hold her accountable. Additionally, I had the unfortunate experience of being kicked out of a board meeting on Tuesday. I believe Chairwoman Belford has also violated sunshine laws, and I would enjoy that being looked into as well. Please hold these board members accountable and give our children the option to go without a mask. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Susan Artker.
You think she knows where I am?
Yes, I would like to address your comment, what's best for the kids, and Education Commissioner Cochran, where you said he has been documenting compliance. I would like to know why he is only investigating the district-run schools and not the other publicly funded schools.
Florida High.
Cochran used the term Cochran used the term public schools. Why are you only attacking district-run schools and not charter or voucher-funded private schools who are following CDC guidelines? Why are you attacking only the district-run schools, which are our neighborhood schools where most of the kids go to school?
Thank you, Susan.
That are following.
We'll move to the next caller.
All right, thank you. Our next comment comes from Megan Mansell.
Megan Mansell. I have spoken at Leon meetings for a year and a half and repeatedly attempted to contact the board members and superintendent as both a parent and citizen without a single call back. I have watched parents beg and cry as you flip-flop between compliance with the law as it is written and acting on a whim to go against law that was in place barring prohibited restraint when you took oath of office long before the EO and TBORs came into play. You have stated that once schools were in the single digits for case numbers, which they have been, that you would go back to mask optional. You then pivoted to say the entire district would have to be within single digits, which is 9 or fewer of 35,000 students, or 0.03% of the district, a mathematically impossible model with a false positive rate of 0.1%. Teachers were surveyed, and 54% of teachers identified as preferring to teach unmasked.
Thank you. Your time
Yet
is
all
up.
are required to.
All right. Our next comment comes from Catherine Delaney.
Thank you for having me today. My name is Catherine Delaney, and I'm from Broward County. I am here to call to tell you that Broward County is 100% out of compliance. There is no opt-out for parents unless it is medical or in their IEP, which is next to impossible. Unfortunately, I was also kicked out of the boardroom along with the entire boardroom, and that was in violation of Sunshine Law. Statute 286.011, and I hope that you all look into that and please, hold these people accountable for breaking the law and disrespecting parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Rebecca Sorry.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Sarby. I am calling to say that I am in favor of you holding these school boards accountable, that they must comply with the law. They continue to disrespect the Board of Education and the Parental Bill of Rights, and it just really shines a light on the type of control that school boards wish to have over our children and wish to have over and above the parents, which is exactly why we needed the Parental Bill of Rights. So I ask that you do hold them accountable. I ask that you hold their jobs accountable. And if they're wishing to break the law, then they need to lose their seat on the school board. We don't want lawbreakers on our school boards. So thank you for standing up and being for our children and for their rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment will come from Nate Robertson.
Hi, my name is Nate Robertson. I'm from Orange County. I have a son in one of the middle schools here. I wanted to document that Orange County Public School Board and Superintendent are completely out of compliance with the laws of the state of Florida, including the Parents' Bill of Rights, and then the other rules that have been put in place. There is no parent opt-out. There was for the first few weeks of school, and then they rescinded that. My child is unable to go without disciplinary action to school without having to be masked. Thank you so much for standing up for our children and for parents' rights. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next comment comes from Despina Betsa.
Hi, my name is Despina Betsa from Hillsborough County, and although Hillsborough is now in compliance, I'd like to share our personal experience as it may shed light on a problem affecting other children. My 3-year-old was barred from her desperately needed classes and services provided by the PEEPS program in our elementary school. She is speech and developmentally delayed. She doesn't even say mama or dada yet. She won't keep a mask on, doesn't qualify for medical exemption. She needs to be in school. She needs to be in the PEEPS program. She has not even New York forces toddlers. Forcing any toddler to wear a mask all day is not only insane, but it's also anti-science and a threat to their development. Forcing speech-delayed kids is unthinkable. We are devastated and angry at those in charge that seem to be putting politics over children. Please follow the law. They have to follow the law. So many children have different stories this way, like ours. Thank you.
Our next comment comes from Richard Vecchio.
Hello, Board. I'm Rick Vecchio. I'm a Broward County School District parent. I fully support my school board's vote on Tuesday to continue the mask mandate and current quarantine protocols. I think a large majority of Broward County District parents agree. All due respect, Commissioner Corcoran, I think you're acting like an apparatchik, and that our new Surgeon General's advocacy for Great Barrington public health policy is nothing short of quackery.
Thank you, Mr. Vecchio. It's clear you don't have any information on compliance. Next caller.
Our next comment comes from Matthew Dolly.
Yes, hello. I'm calling in as a Brevard County parent, and what I'd like to present to the board when you question Missy Belfort, our board chair, is to ask her why in August she voted to keep mask optional, stating in this public board meeting that she cannot vote against state regulation and cannot vote against state law, stating this to her fellow board member Jenkins, but yet now is voting to mandate masks and to the press saying that she feels that the board's constitutional rights supersede the law to which she previously said she could not go against. Furthermore, I would like this Board of Education to look into the fact that parents were punitively removed from a board meeting Tuesday night that did nothing wrong, all because board members started an argument between themselves.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Michelle Mitchell.
Hi, my name is Michelle Mitchell. I'm from Palm Beach County, and I'm calling because Palm Beach County is breaking the law. They are not allowing parents to opt out. They are making their own rules and forcing schools to break laws. They are punishing children and segregating them. My daughter does have a medical exemption, and she is being singled out. She feels left out, and she feels different. So I'm asking that you hold the school board accountable. And since the funding is coming from the federal government, I'm asking that you remove all school board members and the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Sarah DeMoro.
Hello, thank you for allowing me the time to speak today. My name is Sarah DeMoro. I'm the Vice Chair for the Broward Chapter of Moms for Liberty, and I am the mom of 2 Broward County students. The Broward County School Board is completely out of compliance with the emergency ruling. I was one of the parents that was at the school board meeting on Tuesday, and 8 members of the 9-member school board voted again to go ahead against the emergency ruling and keep masks in place. There is no parent opt-out at the parent's sole discretion. You must have a school-approved 504 plan put in place, which is extremely difficult to obtain. I can attest to the fact that there is a large, massive amount of parents in Broward County that are angry and upset at the school board and would like the school board held accountable for their actions for breaking the law, violating parents' rights, disregarding the Florida Department of Health, the State Board of Education, the governor, and us parents. Thank you for your time, and I really hope you hold them accountable.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Rebecca Franzen.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Franzen, and I'm calling from Brevard County, and I'm calling in regards to the 3 board members on the Brevard County School Board that continue to break the law and do not allow a parent opt-out. Yesterday, the board meeting had to be watched after we were kicked out of the board meeting online, and at the end, Ms. Belford decided to vote with Jenkins and with Duval, stating that it was her feelings that were causing her to make the choices that she was making. I'm asking the school board to, the Board of Education to hold these school board members accountable for their actions.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Sarah Mirsky.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. I'm with Moms for Liberty Brevard, and I'm calling to let you know that the Brevard School Board is out of compliance with the mask policies. The only way to opt out is through a medical exemption and some other impossible scenarios. Parents do not have the sole discretion to opt their children out of mask wearing in Brevard County currently. Also, I attended the special meeting on Tuesday morning where at a recess we were abruptly asked to leave, and I asked for explanation. And the superintendent, Dr. Mullins, told me to not put him in a position to have to be removed from the room, and I said I wasn't putting him in that position.
You have 10 seconds.
And that I would leave. His response was, end of story. I left the boardroom and the building as requested, only to sit outside in the heat while the meeting.
Our next public comment comes from Lauren Heim.
Yes, hi. My name is Lauren Heim, and I'm a parent from Broward County. I want to say that Broward County is completely out of compliance. They are not following any sort of parental rights. We are not allowed to opt out of masks. My son's class was quarantined, his entire class, for over a week. Healthy kids, even though they're already masking them and social distancing them. And parents are not allowed to go into board meetings. They're escorting parents in and out by police officers during the meetings, and they are completely out of compliance. The only one who voted against the mandate was Lori Alhades. All other 8 board members are completely out of compliance and over.
Thank you. Our next public comment comes from Nancy Lawther. Nancy, make sure you're unmuted. Okay, hearing no response, we'll move to the next one. We have April Holland.
My name is April Holland, and I am a representative of Florida Freedom Keepers. I thank you for doing your job by holding our schools accountable. Palm Beach County schools are not in compliance in any way with Rule 215. Parents are being trespassed from their board meetings. Superintendent Burke needs to be reprimanded for his overreach of authority. He has publicly said, we are now writing the policy. Please, God, hold these people accountable and replace them if they need to be. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next public comment comes from Jennifer Gottlieb.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Jennifer Gottlieb. I'm a Broward County resident, and I would just like to say that the Broward County School Board, their actions are in compliance with what their constituents want, and it's a small group of people that oppose the mask mandate. I'm asking you not to impose sanctions for noncompliance with your abhorrent and unwanted rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment comes from Tiffany Justice.
Good afternoon, Board of Education members and Mr. Corcoran. I'm calling today to confirm that the districts that have been mentioned are out of compliance, and we are speaking for thousands of parents who are watching their children suffer subclinical harms from masking while districts ignore these harms. There are egregious actions that are being taken by superintendents and school board chairs, removing parents from meetings and limiting citizen input. We ask that you take swift and direct action to get these school boards back in line. We expect our children to follow school board policies when they're in school, but we expect school boards and superintendents to follow state law. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please note that we have about 10 more minutes left of the public comment section. Our next comment will come from Mr. Belser. Mr. Belser? Okay. Moving on to the next comment, we have Carrie Tackett.
Hello, my name is Carrie Tackett. I am with Moms for Liberty from Broward County. They are not compliant. They have no parental opt-out for our children, and we were also wrongfully removed from the meeting with no explanation by the chair, Misty Belford. I'm asking you to hold her responsible for that, and please remove her. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Deborah Setzer.
Hi, I'm Deborah Setzer from Hillsborough County School District. I'm here to report that Hillsborough County is now in compliance with this law, out of compliance with what most of the parents want and with the CDC and AAP. I would also remind this board that they are under federal investigation for civil rights violations and against doing what is advised by medical experts.
Thank you, Deborah, but that's been withdrawn from the agenda.
All right, thank you. Our next comment comes from Charlene Miranda.
Hi, I'm Charlene Miranda. I am a parent of a Broward County school, and Broward County School is not in compliance. And I really would love for this board and for Commissioner Corcoran to please hold these board members accountable. And, you know, they do not get to choose which laws they get to comply with. I believe that these members should lose their position for not upholding their oath to abide by Florida law.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Duana Boyles.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am calling from Broward County, and our board is not in compliance. Specifically, Chairman Belford stated she makes it appear that she will continue to not be in compliance. Same with Ms. Jenkins, both stating that they do not care if you withhold their salaries. They will continue to enforce the mask mandate in Broward County. So I hope that you will hold them accountable for their actions, for their statements, and bring the board into compliance in some way. Thank you.
Our next comment comes from Jeff Childers.
Good afternoon. Alachua County is not in compliance. On August 9th, Alachua County Superintendent Carly Simon wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post titled, "Opinion Why Our School District is Defying Florida's Ban on Mask Mandate, Even If It Means We Lose Funding." Later on September 22nd, after the new rule issued, Superintendent Simon went on CNN and stated, quote, "We will continue to follow the masking and quarantine policies currently in place in our schools." In its school board meeting this week, the Alachua County School Board considered recognizing the opt-out at parents' discretion, but decided not to comply. Alachua County's ongoing non-compliant conduct has harmed and is harming the parents and children of the district.
10 seconds.
Some children have already missed school this semester due to non-compliant conduct. The district is not in compliance.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Cindy Martin.
Good afternoon. There is no parental opt-out for mask in Brevard School Board's policy, which means that they are not in compliance with Florida law and the Parental Bill of Rights. Please impose sanctions against these Brevard School Board members. On Tuesday, during the emergency school board meeting for BPS, Jennifer Jenkins deliberately attacked the speech of a citizen by calling out the word reprimand. She proceeded to pontificate about the technical programs being used as political leverage regarding mask mandates. The information was not factually accurate and in violation of their own policy. Misty Belford stated clear the room without offering the reason for the public's dismissal prior to the vote. The votes did not change at all, rendering the emergency board meeting pointless. Please hold these Brevard School Board members accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Please note that we have 5.5 minutes left in our public comment time. Our next comment comes from Rosemary Bates.
Hello, Rosemary Bates from Broward County, Florida. Our board is not in compliance, and we and the majority of my colleagues and fellow parents are happy about that because the health of all our children matter. The health of their families at home matter. And masks work despite the cherry-picked data that Richard Corcoran
Thank you, Rosemary, for
presented
confirming that Broward is not in compliance. Next caller, please.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Crystal Hessman.
Hi, this is Dr. Crystal Tessman from Alachua County. I want to say that Alachua County is in compliance with the law. Students can be opted out through the Hope Scholarship, medical exemption, and even more expensive options for 9th through 12th grade. I want to thank Superintendent Simon and our school board for following Florida law and further following IDEA to protect students with disabilities. Alachua County is keeping all kids safe legally.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Sharon.
Hi there, this is Sharon Kerwin, and I'm a parent of 2 children in Leon County schools. I want to thank you for calling this meeting to address the unlawful mask mandate in Leon County and the other 10 counties throughout Florida, although I know there's 3 now that are in compliance. I appreciate and support your effort to hold these superintendents and school board members accountable and enact strict consequences for their non-compliance. Myself and thousands of other parents across the state have fought throughout the summer and into the first part of the school year to have our parental rights protected and for our superintendents and school board members to follow the law and allow parents their right to decide if our children wear masks at school or not. It is time to take serious action against any superintendent and school board member who continues to willfully break the law. Because of these individuals' defiant behavior, our children are suffering. Please take a strong stand today and help parents around the state of Florida to once again have the authority to make the medical and mental health decisions that are best for our children without threats.
All right, thank you. Our next public comment comes from Lauren.
Good afternoon, Board of Education members and Commissioner Corcoran. My name is Lauren DiPaola. I'm a parent, a licensed clinical social worker, and chair of Moms for Liberty, Alachua County. Alachua County continues to be out of compliance and has effectively sold parents' rights to make decisions about mask wearing and quarantining healthy children without parents' consent by Superintendent Simon requesting to receive Project Safe funds from the federal government in exchange for offsetting the withholding of the school board members' paychecks who you have sanctioned for voting against Florida orders and laws. I also believe Superintendent Simon is both out of compliance of her contract as well as potentially not mentally fit to fulfill this role, as today she will again exhibit delusional thinking that she believes she is in compliance. Removing funding will not delusional thinking. It is requested for the best interests of children who you are directed to advocate for as the board and commissioner, that the Alachua County Superintendent and board members who have voted against Florida orders and laws be immediate.
All right, thank you. We have time for 2 more public comments. Next, we have Stacy Bree.
Yes, good day. This is Stacy calling, and I want to let you know that Alachua County is out of compliance. They are not allowing parental rights, and the school board continues to kick people and have them escorted out of the meetings. Alachua County is out of compliance, and as the caller just said previously before me, they don't care about their money being taken away because they have the safe funds that Superintendent Simon has now gotten. So we ask you to take swift action against these school boards that are not taking care of the parental rights and allowing our children to be mask-free and have a regular, normal education. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our last public comment right now will come from Ira Mai. All right.
Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to make a point that those mask requirements do work. There are several studies. The first showed a study from July 1st to September 4th. They looked at 3,142 counties, and the outcome was that counties without a school mask requirement experienced larger increases in pediatric COVID-19 cases compared to counties that
Vera, thank you. It sounds like you don't have any information on whether any district is in compliance. So, operator, did you say that was the last caller?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everyone who called in this afternoon, with the exception of, by my notes, maybe 3 or 4 callers. The comments were on topic, specifically dealing with whether a district is in violation of the law and the policy or not, and that's very helpful. So I really appreciate that. So with that, let's move into the action items, member, and we will start with agenda item number 1, which is involving Alachua County, and the item will be identical as we repeat this for districts, but it's specifically consideration of probable cause for non-compliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding protocols for controlling COVID-19 in school settings. First, I would like to recognize Commissioner Corcoran to present his findings and recommendations for Alachua County, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the State Board, I'll take a little bit longer on this one, and then that'll allow us to expedite the subsequent counties. But I wanted to report a determination of probable cause. To this point, this district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or legal guardian. As the board may have heard, the United States Department of Education instituted a new grant program. The grant program is entitled the Project to Support America's Families and Educators, Project SAFE. Eligibility for the grant requires that a school district implement CDC-recommended strategies, including consistent and correct mask use, and the school district incurred a financial penalty imposed by the state, such as a reduction in funding, including but not limited to reduction in salaries for school board members or superintendents, due to the implementation of CDC strategies in schools. School districts are eligible for the award as long as they commit to maintaining the CDC strategy in the 21-22 school year. To date, Alachua County is one of only 2 school districts in the entire nation to have applied and been awarded a grant, which was in the amount of $147,719. I strongly believe that this federal grant program improperly attempts to interfere with the state board's authority to manage our state's educational system. Education is a state responsibility, not a federal one, and one given to this board under our state's constitution. What we are witnessing in these Project SAFE grants is one of the most egregious violations of the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and Florida sovereignty in our lifetimes. By their own terms, these grants encourage school districts to violate Florida law. Florida law gives this board the authority to enforce the education code, the rules that are derived from the education code, by withholding state funds in any amount for as long as a school district is unwilling to comply with the law. This enforcement action is crucial to the rule of law in Florida schools, but if the federal government can simply backfill or buy off school districts with grants, then this board's enforcement authority is in essence neutralized, nullified, and abolished. Floridians should be offended by the Biden administration's use of federal taxes in an attempt to make the enforcement of Florida's laws so ineffective. I also want to comment on something that you probably have recently been made aware of, which is Attorney General Merrick Garland's memorandum dated October 4th, 2021, directing the FBI to investigate alleged threats to public school officials amidst ongoing spirited debate over both masking and critical race theory. Although I certainly agree that harassment, assault, and threats of violence are categorically inappropriate within the bounds of civil discourse, we must also acknowledge that these issues have generated legitimate, well-warranted debate within our communities, and that any federally sanctioned attempts to chill this discussion tread dangerously close to the constitutional right of free speech, if not trample upon it. To that end, let it be known that we, the Florida Department of Education, value enthusiastic debate, welcome student-centered conversations between ourselves, our citizens, and our local districts or our federal counterparts. However, understand that we stand foremost within the rights of our citizens, to govern the upbringing of their children and to lawfully speak and be heard, regardless of political disposition. Put short, we will not be strong-armed, nor will we allow others to be. Should the federal government's efforts stray even slightly from justice to deter parental rights or lawful speech, they should prepare for a swift and zealous response. If this board accepts my finding of probable cause and finds that the school board of Alachua County has refused to comply with the law, I recommend that the board considers a sanction that includes offsetting any federal grant funds awarded for noncompliance with DOH's protocols for schools. We are not able to withhold the grant funds themselves since they are federal grant funds awarded directly to the school districts. However, as long as there are state sources of funds and the withholding is calculated to encourage compliance, I recommend that the state board find that the district is out of compliance with the Department of Health Emergency Rule 64 DER 2115, order compliance within 48 hours, and withhold state funds in an amount equal to any federal Project SAFE grant funds or successor grants awarded to the Alachua School District for its noncompliance with Department of Health Emergency Rule 64 DER 2115, in addition to withholding state funds in an amount to 1/12 of each school board member's annual salary. Finally, the department stands committed to the educational success of our state students. We all want our schools open and students being able to go to them. However, in our system, the Florida Department of Health decides the health protocols for schools. Admittedly, there is a difference between the CDC and our Department of Health. There is even disagreement within the CDC itself. But in our system, school districts are required to follow the protocols set by the Department of Health. And with that, I conclude my remarks, Chairman. And you have my recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Members, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the findings and recommendations for Alachua County as presented by Commissioner Corcoran.
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. At this time, before we vote, I'd like to hear from and recognize Superintendent Simon from Alachua County, who will have 5 minutes to make the presentation. And Superintendent Simon, I'm guessing that you've been listening for a bit on the call. The only issue before this board is whether or not Alachua County is in compliance with the recently drafted rule. And that's what I would gratefully appreciate if you could limit your comments to, because that would be helpful to this board. With that, would you please share with the board your position today?
Thank you, Commissioner and board members, for the opportunity to discuss the COVID policies and procedures that Alachua County School Board members and I have adopted and implemented. We believe they comply with the statutory requirements in the Parents' Bill of Rights. They are also necessary to meet our students' constitutional right to safe and secure schools. According to the Parents' Bill of Rights, the state, any of its political subdivisions, and any other governmental entity or institution may not infringe on the fundamental rights of a parent to direct the upbringing, education, and mental health of his or her minor child without demonstrating that such action is reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, and that such action is narrowly tailored and is not otherwise served by a less restrictive means. Our current policies are reasonable and necessary to protect the health and safety of our students, which is certainly a compelling interest. They have also been narrowly tailored based on the specific circumstances in our community. Judging by the hasty replacement of the state's original DOH emergency rule on COVID in schools with a new rule just 2 days before an administrative hearing, it appears that the state knew its initial rule was flawed and likely to fail in court. Unfortunately, the new rule is even worse. It is careless, dangerous, and actually increases the risk of spreading COVID. Regrettably, it seems that our Surgeon General has prioritized support for the governor's political agenda over the health and safety of the citizens in Florida, including our children. Ironically, the so-called emergency rule was issued despite the fact that there is no formal state of emergency in place in Florida. In fact, the real emergency is that the Florida Department of Health has turned its back on its state's mission, protect, promote, and improve the health of all people in Florida through integrated state, county, and community efforts. Tying the hands of school officials who are dealing with a highly transmissible and potentially life-threatening virus will not protect, promote, and improve the health of Florida citizens, particularly our children. It's telling that a rule of such significance was developed without any public notice or input. We should all be troubled by this lack of transparency at the state level. Local school districts certainly haven't had this luxury. Our decisions on COVID protocols have been made in the sunshine, and almost all of us have been targets of intimidation and threats as a result. Nevertheless, we continue to do what we think is in the best interest of our students and staff. I expect my colleagues on this call will present robust evidence supporting their COVID protocols. Therefore, I will devote the remaining of my time to another COVID-related issue. As I'm sure you are aware, Florida is the only state in the nation that is yet to apply for the American Rescue Plan federal funding known as ESSER. That application was due 4 months ago. The funds are intended to help schools deal with the impact of COVID and other challenges. A spokesperson for the governor is quoted as saying, "No district has articulated a need for funding that cannot be met with currently available resources." This is flat out false.
Superintendent Simon, I apologize for interrupting you, but as you know, what you're speaking to at this point is not on the agenda today. Would you like to use the rest of your time to address this issue?
Well, with all due respect, Chairman, this was not presented to us superintendents prior to the meeting. This was something that was presented right now during the meeting, and most of us have prepared statements with the expectation that we had 5 minutes to speak.
Well, the state has applied, so that, yes, please, go ahead, Commissioner.
And it's also mute. There's already been articles written about us applying, so if they could just get caught up with the media and then do a little research and then come back to us, that would be helpful, but their point's completely mute and incorrect.
Thank you, Commissioner. Superintendent Simon, do you have anything further to say regarding Alachua County's compliance with the rule?
So we believe that we are in compliance with the mask rule. We have medical exemption. We also are utilizing the Hope Scholarship that Commissioner Corcoran has provided by using 6A ER 2102 that gives the parent the sole discretion to utilize a voucher option. And just recently our board voted to have a parent exemption for our high school staff, or high school students. So we believe that we are in compliance and we have been following the expectations of the mask mandate. Ultimately, I ask that the Board of Education and the Commissioner honor Article 9 of the Florida's Constitution, which says that it is the paramount duty of the state to provide for education of children. We also ask you honor the long-standing principle of local control by allowing school districts to make decisions that meet the needs of their communities.
Thank you, Superintendent Simon. Members, are there any? With that, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye. Could you please unmute Member Tuck?
He's unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure I was unmuted.
Yes, sir. You had voted in favor of the motion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very good. With that, the motion carries. I'd like to move to the second agenda item, which is Brevard County. And again, we are considering only one item, which is consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule. I'm guessing that most superintendents who will be speaking today have listened thus far, and I would just respectfully ask that you limit your comments to what is on the agenda today. Commissioner Corcoran, would you please present your findings and recommendations for Brevard County?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of the parent or legal guardian. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties of Alachua County.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve the Commissioner's findings and recommendations for Brevard County?
So moved.
And is there a second? Thank you, members. At this point, I'd like to hear from Superintendent Mullins from Brevard County. And Superintendent, you probably have been listening and you know that there is 5 minutes allotted to you, and we'd be very grateful if you would address the comments relevant to the agenda item today.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Grady, members of the State Board of Education, and Commissioner Corcoran. Per the invitation for today's meeting, with me is School Board Chairwoman Misty Belford and School Board General Counsel Paul Gibbs. Our school board met on October 5th to discuss Department of Health Rule 64 DER 2115 and Brevard's emergency face covering requirement for students that provides for a medical, including mental health related opt-out. After board discussion of the rule and the Parental Bill of Rights, within the context of Brevard's COVID transmission rates and in consultation with local health officials, the majority of the school board voted to maintain the emergency face covering requirement through October 29th. The superintendent may transition the requirement to include a parent opt-out if Brevard's transmission rate reaches 50 per 100,000. Chairwoman Belford will provide additional information and alignment with law.
Legal justification for our actions was outlined in our initial response to the Commissioner and provided to you in the probable cause finding. The essential arguments have not changed. For the sake of time and assuming you all have duly prepared for today's proceedings, I will not go into detail on those assertions. In summary, Article 9 of the Florida Constitution, as well as Florida Statute 1002.20, require that we provide a safe system of free public education. Additionally, Florida Statute 252.36 states that schools should remain open provided safety can be maintained by mitigation strategies recommended by federal or state health agencies. And as you all are aware, even a lawful agency rule does not trump our constitutional or statutory responsibilities. In addition to those original assertions, I would ask that the State Board members confer with your attorney to determine if it is wise to enforce a DOH rule which is in conflict with statute and unauthorized. Florida Statute 1003.22(3) is cited as authority for the emergency rule. The referenced statute allows adoption of rules by the FDOH addressing children's immunizations. It fails to authorize adoption of rules to protect parental rights. Reliance upon 1003.22 in authorizing the rule is misplaced, and enforcement of said rule by the State Board may also be problematic.
Furthermore, the Parents' Bill of Rights limits infringing on the fundamental rights of a parent without demonstrating that such action is reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, and that such action is narrowly tailored and is not otherwise served by less restrictive means. The DOH rules circumvent statute and deprives districts of the opportunity to show compliance with the Parents' Bill of Rights and is therefore in conflict with that statute, as well as 252.36, 1002.20, and Article 9 of the Constitution. We maintain that we are in compliance with all statutes and constitutional duties, including the Parents' Bill of Rights. The protection of health, safety, and welfare in our facilities is of utmost importance and has long been held to be a compelling state interest, as has maintaining open schools. In fact, the DOE Emergency Order 2020-EO-06 determines school closures impact students, parents, and our community, and goes on to state that school openings must be consistent with safety precautions defined by the Florida Department of Health and local health officials. Our actions were both reasonable and necessary based on the crisis we were experiencing in our schools. We started our school year with multiple mitigation strategies in place, including strongly encourage masking for the Commissioner of Education. In just 14 school days, we had over 3,200 positive cases, had to shut down one school, and were on the brink of having to shut down others. We had 12 staff members and 3 students in the hospital. We quarantined nearly 18,000 individuals, and we're outpacing the infection rate in our community by nearly 2.5 times. This was not a sustainable or safe situation. In essence, we opened our schools attempting to follow your rules with catastrophic outcomes for our schools and our community. We had to take some additional action to avoid conflict with our constitutional and statutory responsibilities and to ensure the safety of our students and staff. Universal masking was the only additional mitigation strategy available to us to address the crisis and was supported by federal and state health officials as well as local and regional health experts. Our policy is narrowly tailored to only address the current situation and is the least intrusive measure available. The need for the policy is reviewed at least every 30 days, and when our community drops into moderate spread levels, the policy will transition to a parent opt-out. Lifting these measures while still experiencing high community spread would be detrimental to our ability to continue providing a safe education. Additionally, the impact of optional quarantining has not yet been realized, and we continue to see high transmission levels in our community. In light of the conflict between agency rule and constitutional and statutory responsibilities, as well as the significant data presented to justify our actions as necessary to preserve the compelling state interest, we would ask that you withhold any enforcement action. However, if you choose to move forward with the action, we would point out that the Commissioner's recommendation results in personally penalizing board members who voted against this mandate, even though they have no independent authority to override a vote of the majority of the board. That action would be unreasonable and entirely unsupported. Thank you.
And thank you, Superintendent Mullins. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent Mullins from Broward County? Hearing no questions, members, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And aye. Chelsea, if you could confirm everyone's off, the members are off mute, please, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
I heard ayes. Any opposed? Nay? Motion carries. Moving then to the next agenda item, number 3. This is Broward County, and again, it's the consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding controlling COVID-19 in school settings. Commissioner Corcoran, would you please present your findings and recommendations to this board for Broward County?
Thank you, Chair. This board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or legal guardian. To date, Broward County is one of only 2 school districts in the entire nation to have applied and been awarded a Project Safe grant in the amount of $420,957. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. And operator, again, if you could unmute the board members. Members, is there a motion to approve Commissioner Corcoran's findings and recommendations for Broward County?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to hear from Superintendent Cartwright from Broward County. And I would just point out, Superintendent, that some of the prior presenters have essentially been admitting that the district is in violation, but then they present some legal argument for justification. And I won't interrupt you if you choose to make a similar argument, but it really would be helpful if you could actually discuss whether or not Broward County is in compliance with the rule.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. The Broward County School Board met on October the 5th to review the newest Florida Department of Health emergency rules issued on September 22nd and considered its implication on the district's health and safety policies and protocols for the current school year implemented in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In August, Broward County School Board communicated the district was following updated guidance issued by the CDC on August 5th on COVID-19 prevention in schools. Specifically, the guidance included the following language. Due to the circulating and highly contagious Delta variant, CDC recommends universal indoor masking by all students, staff, teachers, visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. As of today, this guidance has not changed. After listening to the guidance from medical experts and reviewing current local COVID-19 statistics, the school board voted to maintain its existing health and safety policies and protocols for now. Although we are challenging the newest Department of Health emergency rule, our plan is to comply by changing our safety policies and protocols in the near future once the matrix of scientific data enables us to do so in a manner that will protect the health and safety of our students, teachers, and other employees. Emergency Rule 64 DER 21-15 from the Florida Department of Health specifically speaks to minimizing the unnecessary exclusion of healthy students from in-person learning. The district's actions referenced in your letter received on October 4th were taken for the explicit purpose of mitigating the spread of COVID-19 cases in our schools and preventing the unnecessary removal of students from school because of positive cases. Additionally, Broward County Public Schools Board has relied on the plain language of Section 1014-03 of the Florida statutes, otherwise known as the Parents' Bill of Rights, to continue with the medical opt-out to the mask policy. That statute allows school district boards to adopt regulations which may infringe on parental. The school board is able to demonstrate that such action is necessary and reasonable to achieve a compelling state interest, and that such action is narrowly tailored and not otherwise served by a less restrictive means. It is worth noting that the Parents' Bill of Rights does not grant rulemaking authority to the Department of Health nor the Department of Education. It is also important to note that when looking at the totality of the Parent Bill of Rights, it does not give unfettered rights to the parents. As long as the policy is narrowly tailored and reasonable, parents' rights can be limited. Moreover, Emergency Rule 64 DER-21-15 cites as its rulemaking authority Section 1003.22, Paren 3 of the Florida statute. That statutory provision reads in pertinent part that the Florida Department of Health, after consultation with the Florida Department of Education, can adopt rules governing the control of preventable communicable diseases. Masks have been identified by the CDC as a mitigating measure to help control the spread of COVID-19 in schools. The newly adopted emergency rule allowing parents to opt a student out of wearing a face covering at their sole discretion does nothing to control the spread of communicable diseases and is in direct conflict with its alleged source of authority. Furthermore, the inclusion of the opt-out requirements in the new emergency rule violates the Administrative Procedures Act in that it opts out allowing parents to choose masks for their children and to decide when to send their children to school after contact with a COVID-19 positive person are not linked to the unnecessary exclusion of healthy students from in-person learning. It is unclear how the addition of sole discretion to the parent opt-out was necessary to control the immediate dangers of COVID-19. Therefore, the opt-outs were neither necessary nor nearly tailored to address the stated immediate danger. The rule does not cite to any growing or immediate health danger from COVID-19 or any explanation why emergency action was necessary. Thus, the rule was improperly adopted as an emergency rule. Article 9, Section 4B of the Florida Constitution provides, the school board shall operate, control, and supervise all free public schools within the school district, prioritizing parent choice over safety and the advice of health experts in the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics threatens the safety in schools. It does not promote a secure environment for students. Thus, it's in direct violation of the Florida Constitution. It is because of these points that the Broward County Public Schools, along with 4 other districts, filed yesterday at 3:51 p.m. a lawsuit challenging the rulemaking process to invalidate the rule. We have also not received a response to our request for the monetary sanctions that were applied in August as well as in September to be refunded.
5 seconds.
By changing the rules, the Department of Health demonstrated that we were in compliance from the out provision because of the vagueness of the previous language.
Thank you, Superintendent Cartwright. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent Cartwright? Hearing no questions, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will move on to the next agenda item, item number 4, involving Duval County. And again, it's the same topic, and that is the consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding protocols for controlling COVID-19 in school settings. Commissioner Corcoran, do you have findings and recommendations you'd like to present to this board regarding Duval County?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or legal guardian. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDAOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed by Alachua, for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve the Commissioner's findings and recommendations for Duval County?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Superintendent Green from Duval County, we would like to hear from you now, please. And again, it's 5 minutes. And you, I'm sure, are familiar with the issues that are important to us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Commissioner and the State Board for giving me an opportunity to speak. Duval County would share many of the same sentiments that have already been stated, so my 5 minutes will be utilized a little bit differently. At the beginning of this school year, we started with a policy that strongly recommended to wear masks indoors, and parents could opt out with a simple completed opt-out form in the parent portal. At that time, just a few weeks before school starting, we had already lost 6 employees of Team Duval to COVID-19. In addition, only 8 days into the school year, we reported 492 COVID-19 cases to the Florida Department of Health, Duval. Of those, 76 involved staff, 416 involved students who reported a positive COVID-19 result. The number of cases at that time was so alarming in comparison to the 2021 school year of 2,498 cases that we had all of last year. In less than 1 week, we were already at 19% of the total cases reported the entire 2021 school year. Today, we have over 2,800 positive cases. More alarming, however, was the clear inability of the Florida Department of Health to complete contact tracing, case investigations, and timely notifications to impacted families, resulting in only 13% of reported cases actually being completed. The Florida Department of Health's inability to conduct timely case investigations had a direct impact on the spread of the virus throughout our schools, ultimately jeopardizing the health and safety of students and employees. After the second week of school, we were up to, unfortunately, 10 team members that have died with COVID-19. We provided access to many other mitigating strategies, such as vaccines for our employees and eligible students through school-based vaccination clinics. We promoted other safe behaviors such as enhanced safe hand washing, cleaning, the application of antimicrobial protective spray in high-touch areas, limited access to visitors and volunteers, the promotion of social distancing, the use of air filters to at MERV 13 levels in our schools in our effort to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in all of our schools. I shared these concerns with my board in addition to developing a new plan for contact tracing for students. Due to significant rise in the positive cases, an emergency board meeting was held. And at that emergency board meeting, the board passed an emergency rule of mandatory masks However, that rule also had an opt-out for parents. At that time, it was a medical certification opt-out, as well as part of our code of conduct. Parents could opt out through a HOPE scholarship. Through these efforts, we believe we are in compliance with ensuring the safety and security and welfare of our students and in compliance with the Parent Bill of Rights. Duval County Public Schools believes that the Emergency Rule 64-DR21-15 is not in compliance because it is invalid in an invalid exercise of the delegated legislative authority and therefore is unlawful. In addition, binding follow of this unlawful rule would have an adverse effect on the health of students and staff in our district. As it states in the Parent Bill of Rights, that school districts are able to enforce rules that ensure that we are protecting the safety and welfare of students and that are narrowly focused. We believe that our parents have the opportunity to opt out, as well as ensuring as constitutional officers that we are protecting our students and providing a high-quality education in a safe learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent Green? Hearing no questions, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving to agenda items 5 and 6, they have, of course, been withdrawn, so that brings us to item 7, which is Leon County, where we'll once again consider the item on the agenda is consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule. Commissioner Corcoran, would you please present your findings and recommendations regarding Leon County?
Thank you, Chair. The board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of the parent or legal guardian. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve Commissioner Corcoran's findings and recommendations for Leon County?
So moved.
Second. Is there a second? I heard a second. We'll move to Superintendent Hanna, please, from Leon County. 5 minutes, please, sir.
Chair Grady, can you hear me?
I can indeed, yes.
Good afternoon. From the beginning, we made a commitment to our community in Leon County that we would follow well-accepted science and that data and community input would dictate and drive our decision-making process in regards to COVID-19 safety protocols. In August of this year, we started the school year with a pre-K-12 mask requirement with a parental opt-out option and no medical documentation needed. On August 6, 2021, the Department of Health issued Emergency Rule 64-DR21-12, stating that schools must allow for a parent or legal guardian of the student to opt out the student from wearing a face covering or mask. By the end of the first week and a half of school, it became evident that to keep our children safe and our schools open, we had to make a change. Our daily student positivity numbers more than doubled any single school day from the previous year. The number of students being placed in quarantine was in the hundreds, and one of our elementary schools was struggling with the tragic death of a third-grade student from COVID-19. The vast majority of nationally recognized healthcare experts, including the CDC, American Medical Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, along with local pediatricians here in Leon County, strongly believe the wearing of masks while indoors helps mitigate the spread of this deadly virus. Because of these reasons and following the data, we were forced to implement a slightly more stringent mask policy than we originally had in place at the start of the school year. We believe our compelling state interest of keeping students safe and schools open, coupled with our narrowly tailored approach of including only young students ages 5 to 11 who are not yet eligible to become vaccinated, was in line with the Parental Bill of Rights. We also believe we were not in violation of the Department of Health's emergency rule dated August 6, as the language did not prohibit school districts from requiring medical documentation for a parental mask opt-out. In fact, the DOH rule in issuing this new emergency rule on September 22nd has modified that language to include at the parent or legal guardian's sole discretion, which provides further support that we were at all times in compliance with the initial rule. In preparing and giving reasons for its new emergency rule, the Department of Health stated the purpose of these changes were to ensure parents and legal guardians are allowed the flexibility to control the education and health care decisions of their own children, and to protect the fundamental rights of parents guaranteed under Florida law. Per review of Florida statute related to the purpose of the Florida Department of Health and their responsibilities, we feel as though this portion of the rule is beyond their scope of authority, as this governing statute says nothing about ensuring flexibility for parents to control the education of their child or, quote, to protect the fundamental rights of parents. Let's be clear. The members of the Leon County School Board and I are in complete support of parents having individual rights and freedoms and a say in the general education of their child. We firmly believe, however, we are in compliance with the Parental Bill of Rights. We also believe the language in the new emergency rule that includes a mask-out option at the sole discretion of the parent or guardian is an overreach of authority, as this portion of the emergency rule has nothing to do with the Department of Health's statutory responsibilities to protect, promote, and improve the health of all people in Florida through integrated state, county, and community efforts. At the start of your meetings, I have heard you, Board Chair Grady, state on many occasions that the members of the Florida State Board of Education are not paid and not political. Today, the Leon County School Board and I are respectfully asking you to please let us, as individual school districts, make the decisions that are in the best interest of our local schools. The decisions that are supported by almost every nationally recognized healthcare organization and local pediatricians here in Leon County. The decisions that will help keep our children safe and our schools open. In addition, Commissioner Corcoran, if the board does unfortunately rule against us today, I'm requesting you to amend your recommendation for Leon County's reduction of funds to include my salary. As the only elected superintendent in this action, my salary should be taken along with the other elected officials.
You have 30
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent Hanna?
Mr. Chair, do we need to amend that recommendation to include his salary, or is that something that's?
Well, I suppose you could so move.
I would like to stay with my recommendation if that would be my preference, Chair and members.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So no motion, no questions. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. Motion carries. That brings us to item number 8, which is Miami-Dade County. And again, this concerns the consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding protocols for controlling COVID-19 in school settings. Commissioner Corcoran, would you please present to the board your findings and recommendations for Miami-Dade County?
Thank you, Chair. This board has my written determination of probable cause. The district does not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or guardian, legal guardian. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve Commissioner Corcoran's findings and recommendations for Miami-Dade County?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Superintendent Carvalho, we would like to hear from you next, please. 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Grady, members of the board, and Commissioner Corcoran. Miami-Dade Schools is guided by the best interests of our children, and as such, we believe that our district is in full compliance with law, reason, and science. When schools closed in March of 2020, we developed an instructional continuity plan we gladly shared with the DOE and other districts. We convened a panel of medical experts, including physicians, and infectious disease experts to develop safety protocols and gating criteria, information that we freely shared. In the fall of 2020, we opened brick and mortar schools on October 5th rather than August 30th due to a local spike of COVID cases. We did this in consultation with this Department of Education, which at that time understood that local conditions required different actions to keep students safe. As vaccines became available, we advocated for school site personnel to be prioritized, and here too the state agreed. We've been partners at every turn, and it has worked. Throughout early summer, as health conditions improved, we prepared to return to in-person schooling in a mask-optional environment. In fact, the governor even allowed the state of emergency to expire. However, conditions changed when the highly transmissible Delta variant began infecting children in alarming numbers. During July and August, infection rates climbed and hospital beds filled. In response, we consulted our medical experts. Our school board, our chair, reviewed all available information and exercised their duty to provide a safe learning environment by directing that masks be required, along with other protective protocols to be revisited weekly based on data, the most recent of which has been submitted to you. We consistently follow guidance of the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC, which recommend universal masking at schools due to the increased risk of the Delta variant and the fact that children under age 12 are not yet eligible for vaccines. This August, community COVID levels were 7 times higher than at the end of last school year. However, there have been no major outbreaks in Miami-Dade schools, and student cases have indeed been declining since peaking in early September, a trend we expect to continue. I know our approach of layered mitigation has helped us weather the Delta storm. Based on this evidence, I asked the State Board to delay any action through the end of October when conditions will likely support a further relaxation of existing requirements. My board nor I intend to do anything to place a child or employee in harm's way. We can do better. Tragically, since August, we lost 14 staff members and 1 student, and many more have been hospitalized. We know masks reduce viral spread. Those who say otherwise are misinformed or misguided. A recent national study reveals that schools in counties without mask requirements were over 3 times more likely to have outbreaks than counties with them. In the words of Maya Angelou, when we know better, we must do better. Miami-Dade is committed to parent choice and to parents' rights, but we recognize with rights come responsibility, a responsibility to each other. Florida law allows parents to make decisions about their own child, but does not afford the right to harm another. Oddly, this DOH rule may do exactly that by allowing one parent to make a decision that could impact the life and the health of another parent's child. Our school board's communicable diseases policy is aligned to both CDC guidance and Florida law, which states public schools should remain open so long as the health and safety of students can be maintained by mitigation strategies recommended by federal and state health agencies. We are doing just that. The health of students is our highest priority, and we will continue to uphold our constitutional duty while ensuring our actions are narrowly tailored, reasonable, and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest. In closing, this DOH rule is being challenged in separate legal proceedings, and so I suspect this issue will continue to play out in our state's courts as well as the court of public opinion. So I find it ironic that we are spending so much time and resources arguing about the temporary inconvenience of wearing a mask to protect each other when we have much more pressing issues to address. We should be redirecting all our energy into supporting children and families who have endured this pandemic. As educators, or those concerned with education, we should be focused on helping children recover lost learning and accelerate academically, lest we forget that these same children represent Florida's future. If we are serious about our commitment to the welfare of our children and the future of our state, and in Miami-Dade we are, we must focus on bringing this pandemic to an end so that masks and mitigating strategies are no longer a topic of conversation and teaching and learning are. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Carvalho. Members, are there any questions? Hearing none, there is a motion and there is a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving to item number 9, Orange County. Consideration of probable cause for noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding protocols for controlling COVID-19. Commissioner, would you please give the board your findings and recommendations for Orange County?
Thank you, Chair. The board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or legal guardian. I recommend that you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve the Commissioner's findings and recommendations for Orange County?
So moved.
And is there a second? I think I heard 2 motions in there. Second, please.
Second. Second.
Thank you. Moving then to Superintendent Jenkins from Orange County. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair Grady, and good afternoon to the members of the State Board of Education and Commissioner Corcoran. We appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Based upon rising positive case numbers, the school board directed me on August 24th to require a mask of all students unless a medical note was provided for an opt-out. This decision was driven by an alarming rise in COVID-19 positivity data at the time. According to the Florida Department of Health in Orange County, for the week of August 13th, Orange County's positivity rate was 18.3%, with 609 cases per 100,000 residents. That is CDC red status of high transmission of infection. In OCPS, we saw concerning numbers of new cases as well, including a record high of 382 the day before that board meeting. I want to assure you that our greatest concern was the safety of our students and staff. The action was legal. As constitutional officers, we take seriously our charge under Florida Statute 1001.428A to protect the health, safety, and welfare of students. We believed requiring face masks in our schools was the best way to protect students and staff. The action was necessary. The district must provide for the continuity of instruction. Required in-person learning is hindered if students are isolated due to infection or quarantine due to close contact exposure to COVID-19. And the action was reasonable. The CDC stated in its August 5th guidance that due to the circulating and highly contagious Delta variant, CDC recommends universal indoor masking by all students age 2 and older, staff, teachers, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. Our highly qualified medical advisory committee was also consulted regarding best strategies. The data reflects positively on our face mask strategy. In September of last year, we had 220 positive cases with about 1/3 of our students in attendance. By the end of October, we had experienced 4 school closures, pivoting to virtual learning. This year, in September, we had 3,107 positive cases in our schools with full attendance. To date, we have had no school closures. We've seen a sharp decline in positive cases after the mask requirement took effect, and healthcare professionals have commended the intervention. Now, concerning the emergency rule adopted on September 22nd, we believe it conflicts with the Florida Statute 1014.03, which is part of the Parents' Bill of Rights. That legislation does not give the Department of Health the ability to engage in rulemaking to implement the statute. The school board also believes the Department of Health exceeded its grant of rulemaking authority in Florida Statute 1003.22(3), which states the Department of Health may adopt rules governing the control of preventable communicable disease. Prohibiting districts from enforcing face mask usage would not control a preventable communicable disease. Allowing parents to send their student who has been exposed to close contact with a COVID-19 positive individual would not control preventable communicable disease. Again, the CDC has identified mask usage as a mitigation strategy to prevent the spread of the communicable disease. Yesterday, the school board, along with others, filed a rule challenge to the emergency rule with the Division of Administrative Hearings. Additionally, the Parent Bill of Rights specifies that local government entities may not infringe on the parent's right without demonstrating that such action is reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, and that such action is narrowly tailored and is not otherwise served by a less restrictive means. There are not less restrictive means for the school board to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The state did not approve an innovative learning option allowing full funding for students taking classes at home. Since all students are back in school, the mitigation strategy of social distancing is unavailable. Vaccination is an available mitigation for certain ages, but Florida statute prohibits requiring COVID-19 vaccination for enrollment and attendance. Our action is narrowly tailored because the face mask requirement is in place through October 30th. We are optimistic that the numbers will continue to improve over the next 3 weeks so that we can return to our previous strategy, allowing parents to opt out. Chair Grady, that concludes my response.
Thank you, Superintendent Jenkins. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent? Hearing no questions, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Moving then to agenda item 10, Palm Beach County and the consideration of probable cause for its noncompliance with the Department of Health emergency rule regarding protocols for controlling COVID-19. Commissioner Corcoran, would you please present your findings and recommendations to the board?
Thank you, Chair. This board has my written determination of probable cause. This district has not come forward with documentation to establish compliance with the law, which requires an opt-out of the district's mask mandate at the sole discretion of a parent or legal guardian. I recommend you find the district is not in compliance with the new FDOH rule, order compliance within 48 hours, and mirror the penalties imposed for Alachua.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there a motion to approve the Commissioner's report and findings and recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Superintendent Burke, we would appreciate hearing from you next, please, for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman Grady, members of the board, and Commissioner Corcoran. I appreciate this opportunity to speak on behalf of the School District of Palm Beach County and share the work and decisions made to best meet the needs of our students. The State Board of Education and our School Board of Palm Beach County share a common goal to provide our students with a world-class education system. This system must prioritize both student achievement and student safety. I believe it's also fair to say that our governor, State Board of Education, and our school district are in agreement that face-to-face, in-person classroom instruction best meets the needs of our students. I think we were all optimistic back in early June. This school year would provide a return to normalcy with the positivity rates in the 3% range. In fact, our school district's reopening plan released on June 23rd indicated facial coverings would be optional for both students and employees. Then the Delta variant hit and began spreading throughout the community. By mid-July, the positivity rate was 7.8%. Nonetheless, we remain steadfast in our efforts to return to brick-and-mortar instruction. Schools opened on August 10th with a facial covering requirement that included an opt-out provision for parents. After a successful reopening of schools, it quickly became apparent the greater challenge would be keeping our schools open with the transmission of COVID-19 impacting both employees and students. Despite our best mitigation efforts, including enhanced cleaning, MERV 13 air filters, frequent hand washing, hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, and the purchase of 13,000 portable HEPA air purifiers, COVID-19 cases and exposures quickly began to mount. We had 4,000 to 5,000 students directed to stay home each day due to either positive cases or potential exposures. By the second week of school, the positivity rate in Palm Beach County had grown to 17.9%. On August 18th, the school board adopted policy 5.326, student protocols due to COVID-19, to address this rapid rise in cases and offset the imminent threat to keeping our schools open and in-person instruction. Specifically, this policy facilitates the continuous operation of the district by protecting the health, safety, and welfare of students, employees, and their families by adhering to COVID-19 district safety protocols. One of these safety protocols, and the reason we are here today, is that students, except those who are medically eligible to opt out, wear facial coverings while indoors. This also applies to all of our employees. This policy further states that facial coverings will not need to be worn when outside or when eating or drinking. And as an emergency modification of the policy, it was to remain in effect for a period of no more than 90 days. Further, as superintendent, I may suspend, revoke, or rescind portions of this policy based on updates and information available from the CDC, state, or local health authorities. The Delta variant proved to be a game changer, proving to be more transmissible and greater threat to our children than last year's Alpha variant. After just 4 weeks of school, our number of COVID cases had exceeded the total number of cases experienced all of last school year. The district's policy is reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, specifically to protect students from the transmission of the COVID-19 virus. It is also narrowly tailored and is only in effect for the period of time the community spread of COVID-19 remains high, and there's not a less restrictive means in light of available vaccine for the majority of school-age students, and a requirement that the board must provide in-person instruction. With that brief background, the school board's policy is consistent with the board's constitutional duty to provide safe schools and its statutory duty to protect the welfare of our students. With respect to Floridians' constitutional freedoms, there has been no judicial termination that a face covering requirement for students is unconstitutional. Nothing in the Parents' Bill of Rights prohibits a face covering requirement. The Parents' Bill of Rights also preserves the school board's power to take action where it is, quote, reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, and that such action is narrowly tailored and is not otherwise served by a less restrictive means, end quote. The school board's face covering requirement satisfies these requirements. It cannot be disputed that providing a safe learning environment for all students is a compelling interest for the state board and the school board as a whole. Additionally, the board and I have a specific statutory and constitutional responsibility to ensure the safety of students. Again, a face covering policy was necessary in response to the dramatically and rapidly worsening state of the spread of COVID-19 as a result of the Delta variant. Facial coverings are not a permanent solution, and our district is cautiously optimistic by the recent decline in COVID cases in our community and our schools. Currently, the positivity rate in Palm Beach County is around 6.5%. And as I previously stated, and it bears repeating, the school board's policy is narrowly tailored, as it is only in effect for 90 days and can be suspended or revoked sooner when available information supports doing so. We believe that our policy has been effective in reducing the spread of COVID-19 in our schools. Our district will continue to monitor local health conditions in collaboration with our health professionals and adjust protocols accordingly. I appreciate this opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Burke. Members, are there any questions for Superintendent Burke? Hearing no questions, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Members, agenda item 11, having to do with Sarasota County, has been withdrawn. So that completes all agenda items for today's meeting. I want to thank you, members. I also want to thank the callers for really trying hard to limit and focus their comments on what is important to this board today. And I think all the speakers today, all the superintendents presented in good faith and in a very civil and respectful way. And I think that's great, and I wanted to thank them. With that, members, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's conference call, and you may now disconnect. Please enjoy the rest of your day.